Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. And we're guesting with St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith, also the Executive Director of the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation. Well, Mr. Mayor, I can't imagine what we're going to start talking about here. Not much going on in the city these days. I'm kidding, of course. Again, I should know we're taping the show on Tuesday, January 17th. I guess last Wednesday, a press conference, news conference of some note. I got to think this is about the biggest St. Albans news in a while. Of course, the announcement that the city and town are getting together on a couple of key issues, policing and the water sewer issue, which I can only assume has cost the two communities with litigation hundreds of thousands of dollars. Has got to be a safe comment over the years.
Yeah, no doubt.
Anyway, but again, for folks, I read the Messenger story, for folks who haven't been paying attention to this, give us just the basics of just a major announcement last week.
Yeah, so this past summer, Jack Brigham had reached out to me. We sat down and talked about how we might move forward on water and sewer discussions, and actually police wasn't part of that at the time, but we talked about it. And
because Jack had taken a shot at this before in a former stint as selectman.
To Jack's credit, Jack was a supporter. There was actually two proposals on the table in the past. You know, 15 years ago and maybe 20 years ago, I don't remember. Yeah. And Jack was a supporter of both. Yeah. And they just didn't pan out for a variety of reasons and a variety of personalities, too. I mean, that comes into play for sure. And so Jack ran for select board again. Last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think last year, I think.
Yeah, and he wanted to make a difference for sure. And so he and Jack and I have always got along fine, not more than fine. We've always been friends. And so we sat down and then we brought Dominic to the table, and then Dom threw in the police piece of it because that will benefit both communities, water and sewer, and the police. Putting that to rest for a decade will be helpful to the relationships of both communities. And then I stepped back because of my I in my day job through FCIDC would stand to benefit from some activity based on the industrial park and what we do there. Bob Farrar stepped in for the city. And Bob and Dominic negotiated it with Carrie and Jack, and I think Brendan may have come to the table. Brendan Diesel may have come to the table as well. And they worked through it. Dominic kept the council apprised of the conversations, and we got to a point where preliminary approval, we had some wordsmithing, and then it was good to go. So,
wow. So again, on the water sewer, it'll be an equal situation now for any town residents who, and of course, most town residents don't get municipal
so
water
the key to it is the affiliation fee goes away.
That's gone. And when does this happen?
So starting July of this summer, it will be cut in half. So if someone had an affiliation fee on a new home, it was $1,000. It goes to $500. And then in a year from July, it goes away totally. So like for me, through FCIDC, with one of the projects we had at Peerless Clothing, we were paying $32,000. Wow. So this July it goes to 16, and then it goes away in July of 24.
July 1, 2024.
Yeah.
So and again, water sewer rates are equal. It's an equal situation. It will be for city and town residents.
And any improvements are paid by the users. That was always a sticking point, right? How does a town invest in the city's water and sewer when I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say 50% of the St. Albans town cannot or do not access water and sewer for the city. So it's going to be based on users moving forward. And the police, it's what we have found with the police is it's tough to recruit to small departments. Really? When someone gets into the police field, if you will, they want to know that there's opportunity for advancement. Yeah. And when you only have
what, about a dozen?
10 or 12. Yeah. I think we're at 13 now, but I think one just came out of the academy. It makes it tough to to keep them engaged, if you will. And so this gives them a little more opportunity. You know, there's, I think we have to add a sergeant's position, we have to, another lieutenant, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
There's opportunity for that advancement.
Right. And
So-
again, this would kick in, again, the same date that the affiliation
Well,
fee
no,
is
we're-
totally gone? Or?
No, we're gonna, the agreement allows for the town contribution to start to gear up to July of '24. So we're gonna have to buy a
Right.
cruiser, we have to bring people on board, we have to get them through. Maybe we have to have them, send them to the police academy, that's
Yeah.
gonna take time. So there's a period of time to ramp up to get to where we need to be with officers, so that it's, we're ready to go in July of '24.
But that'd be the official date, so the Sheriff's Department
Yeah.
will continue coverage in the
Right.
town until
Right, 'cause
July 1,
their contract-
2024.
Their contract expires July 1 of '24.
Interesting. So
So-
there was no talk about trying to make that move this July? Couldn't do it?
No, it didn't come in, it was just too short of a time period to gear up and, you know, because if you go to training, I think it's 4 months
Interesting.
at the police academy, if I'm not mistaken.
Any reaction? Nothing I've picked up from the Sheriff's Department on that? Or
We have not heard of
Yeah.
anything.
Easy for me to say. I suspect, I mean, that was, of course, a big deal for the Sheriff's Department to get the town contract when the city PD lost it. But who knows? Maybe in some respects it'll be easier. I think haven't even been able to do all the town contracts that towns wanted. So who knows? Maybe having.
Well, that's why I said maybe it
Yeah.
works out where,
Maybe.
especially in this environment, trying to fill all the numbers that they may need.
Yeah.
It may work out to be a smaller department.
Yeah.
You know, the economies of scale may work out. Like you said, if they're doing some of the smaller towns
Right.
coverage.
And city and town will equally be funding
Yes,
coverage
it's
from
50-50.
50/50.
50-50 right down the
Interesting.
middle.
Because as I recall, the town, certainly talking to town select board members, weren't unhappy at all with the city PD's coverage in the town. Just came down to a money issue, as I recall, with the
Right.
Sheriff's Department giving them a much better money deal.
Yeah, it was less.
Cheaper money deal.
Cheaper,
anyway.
and from what I understand, the town did contact Roger
Hmm.
to give him the heads up on it.
Yeah.
John Griswold was not notified because he's not in any position. I mean, he was elected, but he hasn't been
Not
sworn
the
in.
sheriff yet, of course.
So that was sort of how that was looked at, just letting Roger know.
And again, the whole controversy about John Grismore wasn't really a factor in this, or?
No, you know, we started this conversation in July. Before that,
Interesting.
you know, I think if it was a big factor for the town, they would have tried to push the agreement sooner.
Yeah.
But that, you know, I'm sure it had some bearing to sit here and say
Yeah.
it didn't, but
Yeah.
it wasn't the main,
Yeah.
you know, the main topic of the conversation for
Wow.
sure.
Geez,
So-
hopefully with not exactly a ton of people trying to jump into police department ranks these days, hopefully the city PD will be able to expand the department a bit. Huh?
And we've done well, but we've also, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's cost us. I mean, we've
Yeah.
increased benefits, we've increased pay to attract new officers.
Yeah.
You know, we think the new police station is definitely a benefit for new officers. It's
Yeah.
The accommodations are great.
Yeah.
We think we have great leadership with Chief Lamont, and I think the officers enjoy working with him and for him. So I think we're very fortunate where we stand right now. Yeah, so it'll be 50-50, and I think it's going to be great for both communities. Now, the key, you talked about the prior contract that the city had with the town.
Yeah.
That was very definitive as to what the coverage was.
Yeah.
You know, the city had to have two
Weren't there
officers.
different like segments?
Right, there were sort of zones, and you had to
zones.
have an officer in that zone for,
Right.
you know, 24/7, whatever it was. We're coming at this a little bit different. We're going to have officers where there's a need. So instead of having someone sit down at St. Albans Bay Park and wait for a call or
Yeah.
checking speeders, they will go where the so-called action is, if you will.
Yeah. So just more flexibility.
More
which sounds
flexibility.
like that makes sense.
They can cover, if there's a domestic dispute in the town, then they'll send 3 officers to the town.
Yeah.
If it's in the city, they'll go. So they go where the activity is,
Yeah.
and it will be. Mo does a great job of monitoring calls.
Yeah.
And locations and all that, so it'll be continued conversation for sure.
Interesting. When the city did have the contract to cover St. Albans town, was it fairly equal, which number of calls coming out of the city and town, or do you not even? Of course, the town's obviously the much bigger area geographically,
Yeah.
population's similar.
If I remember correctly, I think the city was 10% higher.
So not a huge difference.
Not huge, no. I think the type of calls is different
Yeah.
at this stage. I mean, depending on, we have a low to moderate income level that's
Right.
greater than the town, and
Right.
historically, that's where more problems arise, I would say.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that all.
Have these again, the policing and water sewer affiliation fee being gone so down the road, has this been given final approval by the city council and town select board? Any more votes coming up on? Is it just preliminary approval now, or?
Yeah, so we were supposed to next Wednesday, we were going to have a combined meeting to sign paperwork.
Okay.
So it's not official yet.
Okay.
And I cannot make on Wednesday, so I think we're looking at moving it to Thursday.
So
But everyone,
any dissenters on the council?
No, we were unanimous. Town was unanimous on it. I've asked multiple people if they've heard of any complaints, if you will, or disagreement on it, and no one has. There may be. I'm not on social media. I haven't heard of anything there. But a lot of all of us received texts or calls from folks that congratulated us or thanked us for making that happen. A long time coming.
Really?
Yeah. So it was. And we also talked that it's sort of funny that in a lot of ways people said, well, it's about time, and why did this take so long? It was very.
I'm sure you heard comments like.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a big celebration, if you will. It was just, it's about time. So it's sort of that attitude, and thanked us for getting it done.
Interesting. Did you have any thought? Again, you're in what, your fifth year?
Fifth year in March. I've ended my 5th year in March.
Right. Did you have hopes early on? I mean, did this seem like I think you're a pretty optimistic person, but this has just seemed like such a
this came
discouraging.
I can tell you, this came out of the blue.
Yeah, really. Jack gets a lot of credit for this.
Yeah, Jack for sure.
Interesting.
So I after the pool situation where it got voted down.
Right, of course, the town voted it down.
The city got removed from the police contract.
Right.
So there wasn't a lot to be positive about from the city's perspective.
Right.
We, in our opinion, we bent over backwards to get this town involved in the pool.
Yeah.
We were going to share the Hard Act facility. We were going to share the pool and all the costs, all that.
Yeah.
And then for having it go down, we were a little discouraged by that.
Yeah.
So I was. We chose to go about our way, and if the town wanted to initiate something, then come talk to us. That's sort of what our attitude was after those two topics went down to defeat, if you will. So and Jack got elected, and he and I talked, and so.
Well, kudos to both of you and other folks involved, but that's I think that's huge. This is huge news to me.
Yeah, no, this is something we can put past us,
Yeah.
put behind us, and move on to something else. I mean, there's
Anybody talking, I know the merger issue's been looked at once in a while in the past. Anybody saying, hey, well, if you finally got this agreement, why not go all the way? You hear anybody suggest that?
We're not there yet. The tricky piece of that is tax rates.
Taxes
right? I mean, we're ballpark, we're $1 and they're 50 cents.
Yeah.
So that's a big gap. If it's, if it's 60 and 55, different story. Yeah. But when you're talking doubling, and there's ways around that, I would think it could be a graduated rate change or, but no, I think we were looking at some smaller stuff, Richard.
And that's a good question. There's I'm sure other areas, maybe with this agreement, this may lead to some other stuff.
I mean, doesn't leave a whole lot really left. If you got police, fire is pretty much combined. Anytime there's a call, whether city or town, there's call force from both. Usually attend. You've got recreation outside of the pool is pretty much shared resources.
Sounds like the PDOT Public Works folks typically work together pretty well anyway.
Yeah, I met the town's, I'm not sure what his official title is, but Dave Atherton, and seems like a great guy.
I guess the new Public Works director.
And I think we'll be able to do some things there for sure. But sidewalks come into the discussion. Can you run a sidewalk from Harnack to the complex? And the one thing that popped up on Wednesday when we met was, and it has nothing to do with the city, but my suggestion was it'd be great to have a path or a sidewalk from Georgia Falls at the end of Mill River Road.
Wow, a place I know well, courtesy of the late Anna Neville.
That's right.
Donating that beautiful piece of land.
Yeah, so if you put a path there down to the Bay Park, I think that would be a good connector.
Wow.
If you go to the Bay Park, you can take a walk down to the falls. I think that would be, it would take some collaboration from Georgia. I'm not exactly sure where that, I think I know where that Georgia town line is. It's
probably within about of Anna's place, the old Mill River place, and the falls area, where the Georgia lines. I'm saying maybe about a mile from there. It's more St. Albans. I don't know. Maybe it's about halfway as you're going from the bay to the falls, or a little more than halfway till you get to the Georgia line, but maybe a mile or so, if that.
So I'm lighting the candle and not having any input, but I think it would, for the community, I think it'd be great. We go to the falls quite often. It's beautiful down there.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Yeah. So sidewalks, paths. What else? The pool. We'd still like to have a conversation on the pool to engage the town on. Becoming a part of it. Yeah.
Boy, kudos to the pool, I guess, with and I was away, but the incredible, bomb cyclone windstorm.
Yeah.
Because can I assume there was more than a little concern about how the bubble would fare?
Yeah, I think there was.
And the bubble fared just fine?
Yeah, and had no indication of any movement at all.
Wow.
So, we were fortunate. A lot of trees. Yeah, you missed a good storm.
Well, it sounds like it. I was actually out on the high seas for that storm.
Oh, you were?
A day or two I will never forget. On Queen Mary II, in fact, cruise ship heading down to the Caribbean. But it was pretty wild. And I talked to some folks who had been on the QM2 a long time. I said, "This is about as rough as it gets." Yeah, this is about as rough as it gets. In fact, we left New York just a day before on the Friday. Whatever, I think the front came through. I guess we left on Thursday evening.
On Friday.
Front came through on a Friday, and I guess a lot of the other ships in New York City didn't even leave the port at that point. But we got out there. It was pretty wild. I mean, I was kind of into it. I felt pretty safe on the Queen Mary II, but it was quite the storm.
The people on the Titanic felt pretty safe too.
Yeah, I guess they probably felt pretty safe. I guess we didn't have icebergs to worry about, but it was pretty wild.
No,
how did the city fare with that storm there? I mean, some trees down and stuff, or?
Yeah, trees down, blocked some streets, for our street, High Street.
Yeah.
Few other places. Golf course got hit hard. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, they lost some big ones. Mainly in that the boundary between 10 and 9. Wow. 9 and 1. Wow. A couple big ones down in there. To the point where I was talking to staff up at the golf course. They said that we'll probably have to bring. They can handle a lot of stuff. But
Right.
a couple of the trees were pretty large, and
Really?
they were going to have to hire it out.
Interesting.
But no, we hear the terminology all the time, a perfect storm. But
Yeah.
cell service was out for a period of time. Internet was out.
Huh.
You also had a train had a mishap. They had a mechanical issue, so there was a long train that blocked
Oh, really?
blocked the Industrial Park Road,
Really?
blocked Nason, blocked Lower Weldon, and
This
blocked
is a freight train?
freight train.
Which
Yeah.
messed up, obviously, the Vermonter, I assume.
No, this was after, so it blocked
Oh, is that right?
blocked about. It was right around, I think, 1 o'clock. if I'm
Oh,
wrong.
really?
About 1 o'clock in the
Wow.
afternoon, and then it
Wow.
blocked Lake Street as well.
Wow.
So if you wanted to get to the west side of the city, you had to go around to Elm and come in that way. But all the
Interesting.
others were blocked, and then for
Huh.
about 45 minutes. So that snarled a lot of traffic for a while. And you're talking the Friday before Christmas, right?
Wow.
So everyone's out and about.
Tough
and-
timing.
yeah. So it was interesting.
But I guess all relative. Boy, Buffalo took, of course, I was reading
Right.
on the ship, they'd give you a little bit of U.S. and UK news and stuff. But boy, Buffalo took just an unbelievable
Yeah.
hit from that.
Yeah. Can't imagine that.
And anyway, back to the just the affiliation fee water sewer thing, realizing you can't speak for the town, but the town was definitely, I'm talking to Jonathan Giroux and Brendan Deso tomorrow, but they were definitely taking a look, especially at maybe a wastewater facility in St. Albans Bay. Might that still go ahead? I realize you can't speak for them, or that may.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the cost came in at
Yeah.
from a local perspective for me as a resident of the area.
Yeah.
I would love to see it go forward.
Yeah.
I think the opportunity in the Bay is great.
Sounds like that'd be the place for it.
Yeah,
If there
it'd
was
be
going to
great.
be another one.
You've got the what we would know as a former Traders Way building,
Right.
the brick building at the end, which
Yeah.
is, I think, slowly deteriorating. But it'd be nice to rehab that. If you had a restaurant there or coffee shop or whatever, I just think, and they've done a great job. The town has done a great job down at the Bay. I mean, all the activities at the Bay Park,
Yeah.
the infrastructure. They're working on the Stone House.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a sidewalk from the new town hall over to the intersection by Bayside. So, I think they've done a great job, and
Yeah.
it would be great if they could get some water and sewer services down that area.
And for the news conference last week, I guess you got your first look at the St. Albans new town hall.
Yeah, impressive.
Haven't been in there myself, but pretty
Yeah,
nice.
I would encourage people to go down and look at it.
Yeah.
Very spacious. They've got definitely room to grow for sure. But you drive by, you look at the design. It looks like a old train station. Inside, they did a great job. Their council or select board room is great, and all the offices. So I think they did an outstanding job
Yeah.
on it for sure.
And again, no taxpayer money, I guess, all out
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the sales tax, the additional cent on the sales tax, right?
Yeah.
And the city's are you getting the money you were expecting from the local option tax?
I haven't checked on that recently, Richard, but it was a period of time where we're getting more than we expected.
Really? And what's that? What are you doing with that money, Tim? Where does that
Well,
money?
part of it pays the bond
Of
for
course,
the pool,
For the pool.
and then
Which again was no taxpayer money for the pool, basically, correct? That's all coming out of LOT, or
right. Yeah,
most
so
of it, or?
the bond, and then the operating costs would be from use of the pool. And we've only been in it for half a year, so we don't
Right.
know what that's going to look like. We need probably another year under our belts to figure that out.
Getting a fair amount of uses. We're into kind of midwinter here. Pool doing okay?
Yeah, the Messenger did a story on it, had some pictures.
Yeah.
Pool was full. We haven't had the snow, so skiing, sliding, snowshoeing is minimal. So people are starting to use the pool more, I think. So we'll see where those numbers come in as well. So we're happy with, so going back to the local option tax and
Yeah.
what, so we, by losing the INS building down at Coop Field,
Yeah,
that was a hit to
big hit.
our tax base.
Yeah.
So we have diverted some of that LOT number to the tax side of it, to try to control the tax rate.
Right.
So we're putting 100,000 into the operating budget from,
Right.
which that's, we were, that was part of the discussion when we first did it, was to have that flexibility that if times went south, we were able to use it for some of those activities. And this, I think we were losing 183,000 on the reassessment of the INS building.
Wow. And speaking of, you mentioned this a few shows ago, but with the new Railroad Dispatch Center coming in, boy, the classical railroad building will be basically an empty building?
Yeah, I'm not, there are conversations about interested parties, but I don't know how far those have gone.
Yeah.
We're watching the courthouse come together slowly.
One of Jim Cameron's projects, of course.
That's we're excited about that. And then we have Dom's has some other projects in the works for sure.
Yeah.
So we're, there's always something, but I'm not sure where and they're not out of it yet. They should be out any day now.
Is that right? Any day?
Yeah.
Wow.
The building was moving along well, so.
Yeah. As I mentioned before, I typically wake up to the WVMT folks, and I'm going back maybe a month or so, or a few weeks anyway. Kurt Wright, co-host, was interviewing the Brattleboro police chief, and just made a kind of a passing comment. He made a reference that I see that Brattleboro's got the second highest crime rate in the state after St. Albans.
Yeah, I don't.
And that brought back some bad memories of when Marty Manahan was mayor and dealing with that issue. Is that, it's the first, it was just kind of a stray comment, but does that mean?
Just to be clear, it wasn't Marty's fault.
It certainly wasn't Marty's fault. And in fact, I've given Marty a lot of credit for not hiding that issue and dealing with it.
I agree. I totally
Senator
agree.
Leahy coming to town with one of his committees.
Yes.
I give the city credit for dealing with that. But again, I just happened to
I don't know where that came from.
Really?
Tim Christie, who we both know, called me up and said he saw the same thing or heard the same thing.
Interesting.
And I have no clue where that comes from. We had 4, 5, 6 months ago, Chief Lamont came in and presented to us.
Yeah.
One thing that he pointed out to us was the fact that we didn't have a single car break-in reported in an entire year.
Wow.
I mean,
Really?
that's in an entire year there was no car break-ins reported.
Well, that's unbelievable. Montreal should be so lucky, famous for just stolen cars, I guess, by the day up there.
So I don't know where that figure comes from. I don't know how that, and maybe it's old data, but there's activities in the city. I'm not going to sweep it under the rug, but it's a lot better than it was, like you said, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And now with the larger police department, I hope to get back to the street crimes unit to start addressing some of the drug issues again.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know where that came from.
Down to about a minute, Tim. Budget-wise, you've been immersed in that. How's the budget looking for the next fiscal year? Not too big an increase?
We're in need of a fire truck.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to split that cost over 2 years because it's to get the new truck, it's 18 months. So, I think our rate, and it was going to be adjusted a little bit, but I think we're in that 4.5 cents. And that's with the INS building being reappraised. But the common level of appraisal is a big issue, and trying to get that on hand. There may be a large income or education tax that we're still waiting to hear.
Right, and just very quickly, of course, Mike McCarthy, Ward 4 City Councilor, State Rep, not running for re-election. Trudy Coffey, the only candidate
So far,
announced for that. And Marie Bissett running for re-election for Ward 3.
Yeah, they'll be good additions.
Okay, on that note, we'll call it a day. Well, it sure sounds like they're, kind of maybe better days for the city and town dealing with each other. Thanks to St. Albans Mayor Tim Smith. Good to see you, Tim.
Likewise.
Thanks to producer Alan Cunningham for doing the hard work out there. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. We'll see you next time on Northwest Access TV. See ya.